Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the discussion that we are going to be having about sustainable architecture. Now, before lunch, we had a pretty informative discussion about green roof policy in Norway, in countries like France, and of course, we had the one and only Mr. Stephen Peck, who was headlining the discussion. Now, moving forward to the discussion that we're going to have today, it will be chaired by none other than Mr. Matthew Dillon. He is a pioneer from Australia, and he is somebody who has designed the green roof policy in the country of Australia. To begin this session, we have Mr. Akash Solraju, who will be speaking about the resilient cities. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Akash Solraju.
That's fine. Okay. Hello. Hey guys, how are you? Yeah. Hey guys, how are you doing? How's lunch? Everybody feeling sleepy a little bit? Okay. So I'm Akash. I'm the CEO, co-founder of Akasa Atelier. We work from New York and Bangalore. So. And we're positioning our company as a creative problem-solving consultancy. So what I'm going to be presenting today is a thesis and paper and research combination that I did back in the day. Can I get a show of hands of how many of you guys are from Bangalore? Okay, so I can't fake stuff. How many of you guys are from India but outside of Bangalore? Oh, wow. Okay. Any international visitors? A couple of them. Okay. All right. So I just did that to wake you guys up. So anyway, so to jump right in, this was an image that was published in the Times of India about a decade ago. And I guess a lot of you will agree that nothing's really changed. It's a nice little cartoon of, yes, there's green, and yes, there's other stuff going on, but the reality of the situation is just that it's the infrastructure is really struggling. There's funny buildings. Oops, sorry. There's funny shaped buildings coming up, and cars are now boats. So I guess to broadly kind of define what the problems are is lack of urban public infrastructure, exponential growth, density, trash, of course. The smell is apparently getting to everybody now. Water is disappearing. It's apparently going to disappear in 5 years. Cars are floating. Microclimates are getting destroyed. Huge inflow of people from across the country, and lack of policies and stuff like that. So what are we doing about it? We're extending and constantly expanding roads. We introduced a metro station thing, which you could debate about how they're actually doing it. We're planting trees, which is good, and we're getting a lot of flyovers. So the question is that enough? So if you want to just take a kind of step back, this is an interesting image from Alex Wiseman. He wrote a book on what would happen to the world if everybody just disappeared, people disappeared. So in that spirit, kind of looking at different cities across the world, and I'm just going to take New York, and there's a good reason why I'm comparing this. So beautiful city, established in 1609. It was something like this when they started, and it was actually like that. Or it's an artist's rendition of what it was. So how did they get there? And how does it work? So interestingly enough, Bangalore was founded before New York City was founded or formed. But by 1800, we're still trying to figure out what Bangalore is. It was slow, sleepy town, and New York had their grid systems laid out, and the urbanization had started as early as then. So by the time we came into the early 1900s, we're kind of defining all the park systems, and Malleshwaram and Janagar and places started forming. So what really happened was in the last, 3 decades, 1973, I believe, this happened. I'm sure a lot of people would have seen this already. So the reason why I'm comparing this is because New York and Bangalore are actually pretty much the same in terms of area. And in terms of population, New York is actually lesser than Bangalore. So I kind of wanted to put this in perspective because it kind of explains the gravity of seriousness of what we really need to do, like yesterday. So the bigger problem is New York is at its peak, and they'll grow, but not at the rate that India is going to grow. India is going to become the most populous country in a few years. So I guess going back to the original question, what more can we do? Can we think things differently, rethink sustainability and all that stuff? So kind of generally discussing this, and I intentionally didn't want to get into the deeper part of this, is because everybody here is going to be speaking about it. So sustainability is a little more than just the idea of green. There's the economic aspect, the social aspect, cultural aspect. The governance and the human component of it is really important. You guys have seen this. A lot of this presentation actually relates to the 2 keynote speakers earlier this morning. So I guess, how can we make Bangalore City resilient? So what I did was essentially identify all the urban voids. Now, there's not really a whole lot of room to play, as you know, city is crowded, but there are a few opportunities spread out across the city. Palace Grounds is one. It's a 500-acre plot. The old airport. There are a couple of lakes which we could save. There are parks, Cubbon Park, which is essentially a green garden with some trees, but we could do more. So kind of identifying all these urban voids, and can we create a network, a network of sorts that could be inserted into the city to support the future growth that's gonna that we are going through right now, and also to kind of support what the future has in store. So, create these nodes of sorts to essentially create a larger network. You're decentralizing in a way. You're supporting local neighborhoods, local areas, and it's also happening now. A lot of Nagars are becoming self-sufficient, but can we do something more and think, larger scale? So to kind of demonstrate what we could potentially do, I chose a site, the Bangalore Turf Club, because there's at one point they wanted to they are relocating it outside of the city. It's about 108 acres. The government obviously wants to build a huge skyscraper. The people want to park. It was an interesting problem to solve. So that's the area. It's right next to the CBD of Bangalore, and very close to a lot of other heavy industrial or small industries and markets. And that's kind of where Bangalore really started from. So let's just go back to the roots, I guess. So there's a lot of clutter on the page, I agree, but generally speaking, I kind of just wanted to highlight how we could look into, just start from grassroots, the CDP, the roads, the density, the electrical confines or zones. Water networks is something I studied, missing links that we could probably tap into. And obviously, there's a huge exodus of people coming in, so people are not going to be, getting any slower in development. So I think at one point they wanted to turn Majestic into a skyscraper thing itself, and it's supposed to be a lake. So, and we also looked at other industries and things that are not really helping. Bangalore, I think, provides or supplies 70% of e-waste produced by the country. And it's very toxic, and people are doing this at home. And also, we have a lot of markets. It's not the biggest in the world, but we definitely, Karnataka is in the center of floriculture and stuff like that. So I guess taking all that into different buckets and considerations, looking at the site, what's in and around, can we try and get different systems to come into the site itself? So the government wants to build everything, people want green. Can we have hard and soft edges? By that I mean, it's not really a hard edge, which is building and setback and compound wall and street. Can we redefine that so people can kind of move in and out easily? Fix water networks, and it's also the most polluted area in terms of air quality. So can we create a carbon sink? A lot of sustainability words, so to speak. Essentially just trying to create a shoulder to the city. So, and I'm not going to go through the bottom stuff, but it's essentially all your green design principles. And the other thing also is agriculture. We've gone industries, tech, agriculture is coming back in terms of an industry, and it's very important. Organic is important. There are a lot of farmers who think of Bangalore as a center. Can we actually create jobs or automate stuff, help them somehow, and support the markets that are around, maybe help the flower industry? So essentially, I guess what all that resulted in was, I wish I could use this. Yeah, I can't point. So essentially what I'm trying to create was a carbon sink, fixing of water networks, reducing the microclimate with the water and the trees, moving the bus station from Majestic, which is highly impractical, but it's possible if you think about it, and also not having defined edges for buildings and kind of having it blend into the landscape. And all the other stuff that we spoke of has been incorporated in some spirit. And also the historical area that dates back a couple of decades, so can we still save that? So it's a fancy image, it's a sketch. Not that I'm suggesting that we do that, but it's essentially trying to say, can we still achieve what we want to achieve by maybe having a tower with residential in it, so we make the money component, we still keep a significant portion of it open, and another tower that has urban agriculture. So kind of thinking utopian and seeing if that can work. There's a lot of trees here, I removed it, but the idea is, to create a new indoor-outdoor kind of a scenario. So I guess this image kind of